welcome back to the show on Brashenomics. We're lucky enough to have Dave Duncan join us from the Dave Duncan Group of Keller Williams. And, we were just talking about educating your clients. And when you've been in the game as long as Dave has and have the experience and knowledge he does, a lot of people turn to him, including entire amounts of real estate agents and clients, to find out what's going on in the real estate market and to educate themselves. Welcome back, Dave. How are you?
I'm good, Ben. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm so glad you could be here with us. I think, when you have your experience, you must do a lot of education for clients, and I know also for other real estate agents. What questions are people asking? I mean, where are people? What are you educating people on right now?
The big question is what's going on out there. I get from my agents, of course, buyers. Two answers. The buyers and sellers want to know what's going on. Buyers is how come things are selling fast? How can I get a house? Sellers are, hey, is it the right time to sell? Am I going to get enough money? And then the agents are basically what's going on? Because I have 120 agents in my office, and I see that it's a lot, fortunately and unfortunately.
Yeah. So, what do you see as some of the market changes that are going on right now?
Well, it's big changes, actually. Last month we talked about how the market shifted to a seller's market in February and March, where we have basically just 2-3 months worth of inventory across the board. That's definitely a seller's market where you get more, full price, more escalator clauses, more multiple offers.
Mm-hmm.
So prices are up year on year from last month. I don't have this month's numbers, about 10%. And then just the mix of the inventory is the biggest change. We've expected so many REOs for so long, bank-owned properties. And actually, I just pulled the numbers for King County yesterday, and surprisingly, it's less than 5% of the market is REO. So less than 1 in 20 houses is a bank-owned house right now.
Well, I guess that's a positive turn for the market, right? At least from an economic standpoint.
Absolutely. It helps values. The banks are wholesaling things, so it helps values. The other surprising stat was about 15% of the homes were short sales. And my perception prior to running the numbers is that it would have been about double that.
So again, I guess that's positive. I mean, or people maybe aren't so quick to short sell, and they're thinking, well, maybe it'll come back. They'll hang on to it a little bit longer.
No, absolutely. So that's about 20%. That means 8 of 10 are normal equity sellers. The only other number I ran, just out of curiosity, because I do a lot of new homes, is that about 11-12% are new construction. So really that leaves close to 70% are just traditional sellers with equity that we've known, that we've expected and dealt with for the last 30 years.
So with prices up, so that now we do have more traditional sales, what year price point are we back to?
I didn't run that. I know, I'd say generally in Snohomish County we're about 3. King County you probably know better than I do. I'd say between 4 and 4.5. I did not run that number. But
no. What year? Are we back to price levels?
The peak and all of the phantom equity that we had.
Yeah. We
probably lost 35%. We've gained back 10, so you're still down maybe 20-25%, but and I'm sure you've had many guests say this, that when, if you're moving up, whatever you leave on the table when you sell, you're going to more than make up when you buy.
Sure.
So the only guy that might be hurt a little bit is the guy that's just flat out selling because they need the cash, and then it's reality. You got to do what you got to do.
Sure. So it sounds to me, prices are up. Are the number of sales up also, or is there still just a scramble for the amount of inventory that's out there?
The number of sales are up. I don't have the September numbers yet. I can only speak to my office.
Sure.
We had to transmit our numbers from September to, Keller Williams International, and we closed about 85 transactions last month, but we wrote 135. So it's still so busy right now.
Well, that's good. And then, you talked about a lot more being traditional sales. Do you think that trend will continue?
Absolutely. I think you're seeing more land being picked up by builders, so you're seeing some increase in inventory there. I think inventory is going to stay down for the next 3 months just because we're going into the fall and winter. And then I'm hoping, typically mid to late January, a lot of new homes come on the market, and that'll increase the inventory and give buyers more choices. But it just depends on, that's the big message today to sellers is, if you've been waiting to sell, you can, and now's the time, and next spring's going to be the time because you're going to get a top price, and you're going to have buyers scrambling for your properties.
Well, and it sounds like from what you were saying earlier, with only 15% being short sales and even less of that being bank-owned properties, that your traditional sale or traditional seller who's sitting out there owning a home maybe doesn't have to compete with these wholesale properties that are down the street from their house, and can maybe generate a more price they're more comfortable with without worrying about, oh, well, that one's a short sale, they don't care what they get for it, at the end of the cul-de-sac or whatnot.
Well, Ben, you're exactly right. And the big change in short sales also is these banks have gotten smarter too. They know there's less inventory, so the number they approve is not as a wholesale number like it used to be. Usually it's more of a retail number.
And I guess that makes sense because, well, if you're getting multiple offers on these things, there's no reason for the bank to just let it go, just to lose the more money.
Yeah, and they ask so many more questions than they used to. They're faster and smarter these days. Somewhat. but they do ask more questions. They want more comps. They want to make sure they're not leaving money on the table just because they have such a volume of these that they're trying to minimize their losses too.
Sure. We're here with Dave Duncan, broker with the Dave Duncan Group of Keller Williams. Dave, we have about a minute left before we do have to go to break. You talked about more houses coming on in maybe middle of January, February of next year. What about over the next couple months? I mean, it seems that, the winter months are typically a little bit slower. Do you tend to think if people are out shopping for houses, is a good time to jump in the market, or do you think it's maybe a time to wait until you see the new stuff that comes on in the next, after the first of the year?
Ben, that's a great question. I think now is absolutely the time to do something. There's not as great a selection on one hand, but on the other hand, what comes on in January, February, it'll be at higher prices.
Yeah. And also,
the seasons we see are that from January through June, 2/3 of all the sales happen. The summer quiets down in Seattle, surprisingly. Then we always hope for a little surge in September, October before the holidays. But this year is a little different. September was somewhat quiet, but just last week on my own properties, I had 6 offers in a couple different developments, and it just people are back out there working and looking at houses because the rates are so low.
Yeah, well, and I think the other thing to remind buyers of is, even if you're not going to make an offer during the winter months or you can't find the perfect house, just preparing is such a big piece, whether that's meeting with somebody like you as a real estate agent, meeting with a lender, just to understand what your options are so when you find that property, you can pounce.
That, and you're absolutely right. That and becoming educated. Nowadays, it's nothing new. We're looking at multiple listing service. We can set them up on an automatic email when new things come on the market. And then they can see those. Every day they'll get some emails that show them properties. And they may not go drive by those, but at least it gives them an idea of what the market's like, so they're getting educated, so that then when they do, like you just said, when they do see the right property, they can make a move.
Yeah, well, Dave, certainly that the education factor is huge, so people can, education is what makes people confident. And whether you're looking to buy or sell a house, you want to be confident in your decision, and finding somebody out there who can educate you so that you feel like you're making the right decision for yourself is such a key component. Dave, thanks so much for joining us. We do have to go to break. When we come back, Charlie Carter is going to join us. I call him the builder with the movie star name. You might just call him Charlie. We'll be back after this break. You're listening to Brashonomics.